double, double toil and trouble. Some topics discussed may make people uncomfortable. For fair is foul and foul is fair. On this podcast, we will definitely swear. A lot. Now round the cauldron go, trigger warnings listed in the notes below. Thrice and once the hedge pig whined, the cocktails cry, it's time, it's time.
By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Maiden, mother, crone. Plot twist, we're all the crone. The stories aren't all made up and the points don't matter.
Welcome listeners to The Weird Sisters, a podcast about the blurst and bizarre and all the things you are happier not knowing about. I am the spicy chili pepper offering to the old gods, Tay.
I am that voodoo that you do so well, Lacey.
And I'm Laura. I am the wooden spoon used to stir the brains.
Oh
God.
Delightful.
I can't wait to hear yours. Holy shit. Amazing.
It's a good time.
Yeah, I'm into it. All right, well, listeners at home, we have another episode for you. Hail and well met. But first, before we get into it, Lacey, you have a story for us that is not today's theme adjacent.
It is not today's theme adjacent, but it is very spooky and on theme and on brand for us.
Amazing.
So this is, I thought I would tell you on the pod because that's like what real reporters do. Okay, so last Wednesday, I was walking my hell beast, Maisie, who is the friendliest dog ever, and walks take so long because she needs to be stopped and patted by everyone. Very friendly, never heard her growl. That's what we're working with. So I was walking down by on a walking track near a creek, which is kind of like bushland. There's nobody around. It's quite nobody's there ever. But
Okay.
Desolate.
Desolate in suburbia. And all of a sudden she stops by this huge bush and starts like growling, getting really aggressive, or like her ears are like up and she's all like in hunt mode. And I'm like, there's a snake or something like that. So she wouldn't leave it alone. So I actually had to pick her up and like take her away.
Oh.
And I sort of rounded a corner and I could see through like the trees to this bush. And I looked back and a man in a hoodie came out of that bush.
Oh!
And it was very hot. Like I was wearing a sundress and this guy was in like a full hoodie with the hood up and everything. And as soon as I saw him, my mouth went dry and I could hear the blood in my ears. And he started like looking at the bush and I was like, oh, I don't get very good vibes from this man.
No, this whole situation is not giving me the good vibe.
It is not giving me the good vibe. So I sort of rounded the corner and got sort of back up into the street. And I was in somebody's garden hiding behind their wall. I could kind of still see him, but he couldn't see me. And I was like, oh. So I called the local police.
Yeah. Good move.
Not 000. And they had a patrol car at the McDonald's, which was like 2 minutes down the road. So they came straight away. But while I was on the phone to this cop, this guy started looking for another bush.
Oh, okay.
And then so the cops came and one went over to me and the other one came down to this thing and they like got him out of the bush. And the first thing they said to him was, you're not meant to be anywhere near a school. The primary school's just across the way.
What the fuck?
Strathmore Primary. Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck is he doing in a bush?
That would be a walking track that kids take home.
He wasn't facing the school, he was facing the walking track. But normally that walking track is normally busy as fuck, like full of joggers, full of people. That day there was no one because they were all at the pub because it was the first day the pubs were open.
Oh my God.
Normally it's quite busy. So when I was like the police and I was like, oh, did I do the right thing? And he's like, he's a sex offender. He's a registered sex offender.
Jesus Christ. Well,
Yeah. So in Australia, if you are a sex offender, it doesn't matter if you were after kids or not, you can't be near schools because they could be like, there's mums picking up those kids.
yeah.
So I think I just like escaped a potential rapist thanks to my dog.
Thank you, Maisie. Thank you, Hellbeast. Holy fucking
Well
shit.
done. Oh, bless
Yep.
her. Well, that's fucking
Holy shit.
terrifying.
Yeah. So I came home and I cracked open a beer.
Yes.
And then
Deserved.
I cracked open another one.
Yep.
And
on
then
the
I called
nerves.
my mum. Yeah.
Yep. As you fucking should.
Well, that being said as well, good on you for actually calling the local police, because I know lots of people wouldn't have done that. Because there is that thing, like you said, did I do the right thing? It's like, yes, you did. But in that moment, you're like, is this more important enough to call the police about? Yes. It always is important to call the police about if there's a man hiding in a bush and a walking track and you're by yourself.
Yes,
Yes,
definitely.
that's
And I
not
know
normal.
there's a lot of like contention about police lately because obviously many of them fucking suck and the system
Yes.
that they have in place fucking sucks. But all that said, if you feel unsafe or if you think someone else is unsafe, it is so much better to have called the police and tried to help than it is to just wonder for the rest of your life whether or not that person or you could have potentially been in a worse situation because you didn't contact the police.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'd rather be
Yeah.
called hysterical than be attacked.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Wandering
Basically.
womb.
Exactly.
Yes. And also good on you for calling the local police and not 000 because it was not a life-threatening emergency. Do not block up the 000s for men in bushes. Just call the local station.
For men in bushes.
For men in bushes.
Yeah. Unless you are literally being dragged into the bush, then call 000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or shout fire. But yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not awesome. But
No.
even in that bush, like he wasn't like a homeless dude in the bush. That bush wasn't really good to do drugs in. Why would you want to be in a tree when you do drugs? Like there's plenty of places in that park to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like the playground nobody was using.
Pick up after
Don't do
yourself
drugs
if
in
you
a
are going to
bush.
that.
Do it in a
Do it
playground.
in the playground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't leave.
Nice
That's
and
not what I'm
glamorized.
saying. Put the cap back on that syringe, please. Don't leave it out. Dispose of it well. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So, Laura, you also had a fun time with a gentleman.
I did. I have a good
a surprise
Halloween.
gentleman.
A surprise gentleman. That's what we'll say. I didn't do anything for Halloween this year, and to be honest, after I fucking woke up on Halloween to this, I was kind of like, yeah, that's enough. So I have just moved into a new house. I'm not going to say where it is because that's stupid, but I just
Yes.
moved into a new house, and I've lived in apartments for like probably 9 years now. I don't know, like 7 or 8 years. So I haven't had a house that you can easily just access for a really long time. And we moved in on Friday, and then Saturday was Halloween. So we went to bed at like 4 a.m. because we just moved in with our new housemate, and we were all exhausted and dirty, and we decided to have some beers after. So it's like 4 a.m. when we went to bed. And everyone in my house now is on mad sleeping pills except me because everyone's depressed. So, you know, naturally you get sleeping pills. So I woke up at like 9 a.m., so just a couple of hours after I went to bed, to this insanely loud banging. And the way our new house is set up is that we actually are in the basement where we sleep. There's like 2 stories, and the first story is all underground, and then the ground level is our top story where our like lounge room and our kitchen and everything is. So I woke up to this super insanely loud banging, no idea what's going on, and all this yelling. So I'm in my pajamas with no bra on, and I creep upstairs wondering what the fuck is going on because I had no idea what was happening. And as I get to the top of my stairs and walk into my lounge room, the front door opens, and there is a man and 2 other men walking into my house.
No, please.
It was
No.
horrible. I was like, because I don't like being anywhere without a bra for a start because I have boobs that just won't listen to what I want them to do.
So I'm just sort of like clutching my pajamas around myself. I was like, can I help you? And they were just like, oh, we're here to fix a lock. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are, and I don't know why you're here. And the guy, who I assume is my new landlord, so if you're listening, fuck you, dude, decided to go, oh, didn't the agent tell you that we were coming? And I said, no. And then he tried to just keep coming into my house. And I was like, you need to leave. And he argued with me about whether or not he was going to go downstairs and fix the lock of my housemate's bedroom.
Oh, no. No.
Yeah.
At 4 a.m.
No, sorry, at 9 a.m. So we went to bed at 4 a.m. and they showed up.
Okay.
So Laura's 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So Laura's 4 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. So that was fucking terrifying. And then finally I convinced him that he should not come into my house. Whether or not he had hired 2 men to fix a lock, I didn't really give a shit. And then
It doesn't take 2 men to fix a lock.
It doesn't take 2 men to fix a lock. And then he stood out the front of my house with the 2 men for about an hour just yelling. So that was a great day. That was my Halloween. And then I tried to go to sleep and it didn't work.
Fuck.
It was not a good time. So yeah, fuck my landlord. I'm not into him very much right now. It's not doing it for me.
Mm-mm. Jesus. My Halloween, I just did assignments. It wasn't very fun.
I
But
bet.
I didn't have a run-in with any creepy men. That was a plus.
Yeah. Oh, my Halloween was I watched remember that Korean horror anthology called Godam?
Yes.
I made Rowan watch it.
Ah, very nice.
Excellent.
And he's like a big pussy, and it was really fun just to watch his reaction to everything.
Aw.
Big squirms.
Big squirms.
I hope he had someone to be in his house with him on that Halloween then.
He has a roommate. So.
Oh, good.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
Mm.
Because that would be
Yes.
really cruel.
Yeah.
Would have
those
done it
listening at
anyway.
Yeah. For those listening at home, Go Down is a very good, as Lisa said, horror anthology. Little short films.
It's on Netflix.
In Korean. It's on Netflix.
Yep.
It ties up really nicely. If you've got a spare, what is it, like an hour and a bit?
Yeah, that's it.
Indulge. It's
Mm.
very good.
It's very
good.
short, very nice, very topical. Well, happy Halloween to everyone. We're a wee bit
Yeah,
late.
We did it.
We did. We didn't get to do anything fun, but it was nice. It's fine.
So we shall make up for it now this week because our theme is voodoo.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you, Belle, for suggesting this theme for us.
Yes.
It's very interesting. Got nice and swept up in the research.
Yes, I went
Really
really fucking deep on this, so I apologize in advance.
It'll be all right. Forewarning though, there will be discussions of there'll be a light touch on a rape story in
Oh.
mind. There will also be a light touch, not light touch, a touch on the discussion of slavery.
Yeah.
These are going to be a little bit dark. We should probably we thought let's put a little disclaimer verbally as well as written in this one. We've learnt our lesson. But yes, I am up first. And it's not going to be too much of a downer. My story is about a pretty cool person.
Mhm.
Yeah, so let's jump right in. I did have my notes and I lost them. Oh no, this is not professional. There they are. Alrighty. And once again, shout out to Belle. Thank you very much. This was a great topic to request.
Yes.
If you do have
Alright.
requests for us, please
Mhm.
do throw them at us. Go to our Facebook or our Instagram. You can DM us. We have a website as well where you can find all our socials. We will say it at the end, but just so you have it now as well, it is weirdsisters.com.au.
Thank you.
Yes.
Alrighty. So let me set the scene.
Okay.
New Orleans, a beautiful city. A place where the old and the new, they mesh, everything stirs and marinates together. French, African, American, Indigenous American, unique music, unique food, unique history. 10 out of 10. If the world wasn't on fire, I would love to go.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yes, I fucking want to go.
Mm-hmm. All right, now let's turn it back. It's New Orleans, it's the 1800s.
Everything
What's
is
happening?
shit.
It's everything is shit. A lot more shit than it is now, but still probably I'd say equal. No, not equally shit. It's all
Equal
it's
levels
shit,
of racism.
It's different kinds
Yeah.
of horrible.
but it's all the same shit in the end, isn't it?
Yes.
Anyway, so Spain pretty much own Louisiana at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the Americans want to use the Mississippi River for trade purposes. And the Spanish are like, nah, well, No, okay, well, you can. And so the Pinckney Treaty is signed, which essentially lets trading on the Mississippi resume. Everyone's like, they compromise and everyone can use the river. The Americans are pretty comfy then because Spain's power is like kind of waning, and the statesmen are like, oh, she'll be right. We'll just keep expanding out. Like Spain can't have Louisiana forever. Meanwhile, Napoleon Bonaparte wanted to bring the French Empire to the New World, and there's a sugar colony that he had his eye on called Saint Domingue. Saint, what the fuck have you written? Saint Domingue. Domingue? I can't speak French. You will soon realize that because there's a lot of French words in this one. And so that sugar colony had been liberated during a slave rebellion. And he wanted to use that along with like a much of Louisiana as like a granary for his occupation.
Okay.
And so France acquires Louisiana from Spain in 1800, and they landed in 1802. So it took them a couple of years to like get the paperwork in order. But this brought a significant like French presence to Louisiana. And amongst all of that backstory, the Voodoo queen, Marie Laveau, is born.
Oh, such a cool term.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
1801, she arrives on this mortal plane. She's the first generation of her family to be born free from slavery. Her parents, Margaret, a French, African, and Choctaw Indigenous American woman, so big, colourful history, and Charles Lavaeu, who was referred to as a mulatto, free man of colour in my research. And I feel that's a little, if not really antiquated, and I'm disappointed that I couldn't find any like specific heritage for him like I could Marguerite. Like it's just like he's mixed race, and I'm like, but what mix?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It comes up a lot as well. I had the same term pop up over and over again. I was like, I don't like that. That's tiring.
I don't. Yeah. I could, however, find out that Charles was the illegitimate son of the mayor of New Orleans, who was also named Charles Lavaeu Trudeau.
Scandal.
Oh.
So he had some cash money.
Yeah. He had some white. Yeah.
Yes. But he also, like, because his father was someone of influence, he had like a good like kind of setup. Like he had his own business.
Oh, he was acknowledged.
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. It's like it's really interesting, this dynamic as well. That I never really learned about New Orleans in high school in terms of like all of this history. So it was cool to kind of read about how there's like the dynamic as things are moving out of slavery. We'll get into it. Let's continue. So Marie, our girl Marie, she grew up under the care of her grandmother, whose name was Miss Catherine. Another free woman of color who bought her freedom and set up a life in the French Quarter. She was a practitioner of Voudon, which is a diasporic religion of West African, Christian, Catholic, and Indigenous American influence, which has now turned into what we know now as like Louisiana Voodoo. Much like the New Orleans itself, Voudon is a blending of culture. And so Marie was brought up within the practice. So when she was 18, Marie married Jacques Paris. Very fun name to say. I did look up how to pronounce that one many times because the S throws me.
Yes.
Another free man of color who fled the Haitian Revolution in Saint Domingue, a different Saint Domingue to the sugar colony. This one is a French colony on the island of Hispaniola, which is in the Caribbean. I'm taking you all over the world with this one. Their marriage certificate is apparently preserved in the St. Louis Cathedral.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
How sweet is that? But the marriage didn't last.
Oh.
And Jacques went missing in 1820.
Oh.
And so did the records of their two daughters, Felicity and Angélie, who are 3 and 1, respectively. Marie announced herself a widow. Some say Jacques did die. Other sources say he took off and she was too proud to be like, oh, he left me. So she was just done and was like, he's dead. She told everyone he was dead.
You're dead to me, hey.
Yeah. Like, same. Are you going to leave me? You're dead to me.
Yeah.
Bye.
And I would be frightened if someone who is eventually called the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans told me that I was dead to her. I'd be like, well, fuck.
Ooh.
I'll have no fury, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. So after Jacques yeeted, Marie began working as a hairdresser. And this was like the beginning of her rise in the social ranks. So everyone loves gossip, right? Who doesn't love a bit of gossip? Who doesn't love drama? I got my hair done after months in lockdown the other week, and that in itself was a spiritual experience. I don't know if it's the vulnerability you feel like wrapped in that plastic cape, looking yourself down in the mirror, but I am an open book at the salon, bitch. I will talk about anything, childhood trauma, secrets, gossip about people in high school that I haven't seen in a... No, I don't gossip about you, do I?
Of course you do.
Do you listen to the podcast? Then no. No, I joke. But Marie started doing hair, and she was good. She serves a lot of the working women of color from political houses, and they like to dish all the tea. They wanted to just, again, the power of the plastic cape. Everyone wants to talk. And many of our customers were also like noble rights women, and they were just as talkative. So information about families, friends, affairs, plans, everything. It's the power of the cape. And Marie began to rise through the social hierarchy because of all the information she's learning at work. So a few years after that, Marie meets Christophe Glapion, and they are entered into a domestic partnership, and they be fucking. Allegedly, Marie had 15 children to Christophe.
Oh,
holy
I
shit!
quote, rapid succession, is what my sources say. Birth records record 7.
Okay.
There were 7 who were baptized. Who knows? Shit wasn't regulated. I say get it, girl. Have those 15 babies.
God, can you imagine how fucking tired you'd be?
Yeah, no. I can barely function looking after myself. And I say this every time children are mentioned on the pod or in real life. I can't look after myself.
No.
I can't look after another human being.
No.
Stop asking.
No, it's not. It's not for me. I'm just...
It's a no.
I can't be trusted.
I cannot. All I've eaten today is sugar-free Red Bulls and crackers with Promide on them.
I had a coffee.
I've had 3 coffees as well.
Oh.
So I'm wired. You can tell. I'm very
yeah. The enthusiasm is rife this week.
I have 1 assignment left out of this hell week, and it's like 85% done. We're almost there. I'm relishing in it. But yeah, so Marie, 15 babies, she be fucking. So after she's kind of had a bunch of kids, she's put down the scissors. She quits hairdressing.
Oh.
She takes up the practice of Voudon from her grandmother. Mm-hmm. And we've established Louisiana Voodoo and Voudon is a mixture of many cultures, and naturally was strange and frightening to a lot of people. White people. They thought it was dangerous and that it was the devil's work. Taking no time to educate themselves on the origins and history of the practice. It was banned in several areas and used to slander many people of color. But people still practiced. And that is one of the great things about this story is people prevailed despite other people being shitty. And one of the most prolific practitioners, second to Marie, was her mentor, Dr. John.
Ooh.
So Dr. John was a Senegalese man sent to Cuba after being enslaved by the Spanish, and he convinced his master to grant him freedom because he was an excellent cook. He was like, hey, dude, I'm a fucking whiz in the kitchen. You can't keep this all to yourself. Let me go. And off he went.
Fair, if you're gonna have a skill, if you can cook, I bow down to you because I fucking love food. Love it.
I love food so much. So he sails around for a while. He's feeling a little bit lost. He goes back to Senegal for a while, but he's like, I want to see some more. And he ends up in New Orleans. And he started as a cotton roller, but quickly found financial stability in other ways. He became a Voudon practitioner and built himself a house in which he performed his ceremonies. Homeboy had 15 wives.
Oh.
And 50 kids.
Oh.
Insane. So there's a thing I've read in my research that a lot of people of color who were free would buy slaves as well. People of color who weren't free. I believe this was probably definitely 100% a technique to get them out of
bad situations,
bad living situations, all the good stuff and all good stuff, all the bad stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the I say slaves, the people that he bought ended up being his wives.
Okay.
Is that an abuse of power? Who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there. But Homeboy had a lot of kids, apparently.
Fuck.
Yeah. And he would ride around New Orleans in a carriage pulled by these by these beautiful horses.
I thought you were going to say by these beautiful children. I was like,
No.
okay, now it's
Yes.
weird.
Put them, yeah.
Like a husky train situation.
Oh dear. But yes, in a horse and carriage, and all this really flamboyant clothing, like this Spanish clothing, and everyone would make everyone around him like super uncomfortable, and I love it because he would like just freak out all the normies.
Well-to-do white people.
Yeah, all the pompous noblemen. And he was just seemed like a really cool dude. Not all cool. He's very colorful, cool history. So under his guidance, Marie quickly became a dominant figure in New Orleans society. So people from all backgrounds came to her for advice on everything from money to politics to love. And when she died, her obituary said, lawyers, legislators, plainters, and merchants all came to pay their respects. She was in everyone's ear, and everyone else was listening. She would offer counsel, ceremonies, and symbols of protection, such as gree-gree bags. So gree-gree bags are kind of like talisman. They're a tangible object that grants the owner protection or fulfills a need. So depending on what things you put inside, herbs, powders, tokens, notes.
Teeth.
Then their teeth. I love some teeth.
We love
bag
teeth
of
on this podcast.
Yeah. If your teeth are free,
Give them to us.
well, give them.
We want one each.
All I want for Christmas is your teeth.
Is your two front teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean it, La. I'm serious. I want your fucking tooth. I'll wear it as a bracelet.
Oh, that would be really lovely.
I'll get
As
it.
like a little token. It's very Victorian,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I'll have it cast in gold.
Oh, I want a lock of your blue hair, Tay.
Yeah.
Oh, you can have that. I can do that for you.
Yeah,
I'm
that'd
getting
be
it cut
nice.
soon.
Yeah. Next
Yeah.
time you
Not
go
too-
get it cut, bring us some.
Done. It's very romantic. But yes, these bags were then blessed by a practitioner and worn or carried. I read somewhere that they're like favored to be carried in the left pocket or around the neck.
Mhm.
Don't know what significance that has in terms of like potency, but I like the idea of wearing a bag full of goodies around my neck. I'm super into it.
Mhm.
And Louisiana voodoo is also where the voodoo doll kind of originated. That's why it's kind of been really prevalent in popular culture, because Louisiana voodoo is kind of like what popular culture adapted. And when people think of voodoo, that's what they think of, is this section of voodoo.
Right.
Because there's a heap of different ones. There's Haitian, a bunch of different West African branches. It's really interesting how like dependent it is on like geographical location, which is really interesting. So even though Marie's clients, many of her clients were white, the white community never really accepted voodoo or Voudon as a legitimate practice. And that's why it's still considered an occult fad rather than a religion, even though it is a religion, naturally. Racism at it again. Despite all of this, Marie is still rising among social circles. She's a boss. She's an active community member. She worked with the ill, lots of like yellow fever patients. Some of her kids were sufferers of yellow fever, so that's kind of like a connection with her. So anyone that had it, she was like, I'm going to help you out. She posted bail for women of color.
Ooh.
What a badass.
And she would visit death row prisoners to sit and pray with them, which is cool as hell. There were 3 places that she would hold her ceremonies. So her home on St. Anne Street, Congo Square, and Dr. John's house on Bayou Street. So in her backyard, Marie would hold ceremonies to conjure a loa named Dumbala Weedo, also known as the spirit of the great zombie, Zombi, zombie.
Ooh.
This spirit was said to manifest through a snake that Marie owned, who was also named Zombie.
Oh.
A massive snake.
Oh.
Really cool. In Congo Square, mass congregations would gather on Sundays. This place was a place where city officials had set as a gathering place for both free and non-free people of color. Now, the literature says set aside this square for them, but was it segregated? I'm just saying.
Mm.
Who writes the history? The people that history is in favor of. That's trying. This is my academic coming through, trying to read everything with a little bit more of a broader view. But Marie made sure this square was a place of rejuvenation for people experiencing oppression. And everyone would dance and worship, and it was really cool. On Bayou Street, the major ceremonies were held for the initiated of voodoo. So drumming, dancing, singing, alleged spiritual possession would happen during these events.
Ooh.
Nosy white people would often sneak around the property in order to get a look. And this resulted in lots of sensationalized accounts of what was happening.
Naturally.
But I think that they use that in their favor, because if people fear something, that gives it power. And I feel like I would have used it to my advantage. I think Marie definitely does that too, which you'll soon find out. Now, Marie was the queen, and if you come for the queen, you come correct.
Absolutely.
A Creole woman named Rosalie attempted to usurp Marie from her throne. She crafted a life-sized voodoo doll and propped it up in her front yard, allegedly imported from Africa. This thing was strung with intricate beadwork, and Rosalie would hope that this effigy would like instill fear in the community, but also like awe, like, oh my God, she's so powerful. She has this giant effigy in her front yard. Getting in Halloween decorations early, am I right? So Marie is having none of this. She's like, no, she stole the effigy. She was like, no, fuck this. And what does Rosalie do? She takes Marie to court. It's like an episode of Judge Judy.
You stole my fucking
voodoo doll.
effigy.
Yeah. It's like something you'd see at like the Mind Body Spirit Festival.
Yes.
And all those crunchy white people with dreads, like, she stole my effigy. Marie was in the ear of all the politicians at the time, remember? All the lawyers. So the case ruled in Marie's favor and the effigy was permanently removed. Who knows what happened to it? It was just permanently removed. So we'll see. Who knows? It's going to pop up now, like 200 years later.
Yeah.
Someone's going to chuck it on eBay. Haunted doll watch. So one of the most famous stories of Marie is how she acquired her house. This is where a small mention of rape does come in, listeners at home. It's nothing graphic. It's just this story stems from a rape.
Oh.
Let's go. So a local businessman's son had violently raped a Creole girl after a ball. This ball was designed for men to meet Creole and other women of color to become their mistresses.
Right.
A weird kind of like shopping ball.
Oh.
It's just really strange.
That makes me
I found
think
it really
of
bizarre.
The so you know how people go and get like Russian brides. You can go on a tour as a man, and they like set up these parties. So like these men, maybe there's like 10 men in like a tour that go, and they go to parties in different cities every night. And there's basically like 200 Russian women at these parties for the 10 men. And they just literally like shop around for a bride.
I hate it.
It's so fucking, like, it's just weird. It's so weird. There's a great documentary on it on Netflix.
Amazing. I'm adding that to my list. How interesting. How fucked up, but how interesting. Isn't that our motto here, though, at the Weird Sisters? How fucked up, how interesting. Tell me more.
Tell me about it.
Well, I will tell you more. So the man who's the local businessman this is his son that's done the horrible thing. So this businessman has sought the help of Marie. Knowing her reputation, he's like, please help my son. And Marie met with the man. She struck a bargain. She's like, your son will go free, but you have to give me one of your fucking properties as payment. And the guy agrees, and it's all sealed and good to go. Now this is it seems very out of character for Marie, for someone who's so caring of women and a matriarch and all that, but you know what? It's in the history books, but whatever. So, same day, it's all agreed. Marie walks through New Orleans with zombie draped over her shoulders. Passers-by see her approach the St. Louis Cathedral, and gossip just spreads like wildfire everywhere. Oh my God, did you see Marie in the square with the snake? She's back on her bullshit. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. What's going to happen? Lads, let's find out. So Marie enters the cathedral. She kneels at the altar of the cathedral and begins to pray. As we've discovered, Louisiana voodoo, again, blend of Catholicism, African traditions, and all the good stuff. So Marie asks the saints and God with help for the ritual. She places 3 guinea peppers in her mouth as payment. The searing pain would act as penance for the crime. Now, I argue that the poor victim of this brutal rape may disagree that 3 chilies is enough payment.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there at this point, is it? What's done is done. So Marie kneels in front of the altar. She's there for hours. The peppers are searing her mouth, like all of the
Juice.
it's on fire. It's there. And then when the day comes to an end, she leaves the cathedral. She goes to the courthouse. She places 1 pepper beneath the judge's chair, 1 beneath the jury box, and 1 beneath the seat of the accused man, prison son.
Oh,
And then the next day,
sorry,
it's okay. And then the next day, Marie attends the trial, still with zombie draped around her neck. And the accused was found not guilty. Now, was this a sensationalized act in order to scare the jury or influence the judge, put on a show for the white people, watch them squirm? Her prevalence in society is so strong, I don't doubt it for a second. People who didn't understand voodoo knew only of the spectacles they'd read about in the news, they heard in gossip. So good on her for using that to her advantage. Shame on you for doing it to defend a rapist.
Yeah.
How dare you?
I mean, this is the thing, because she actually sort of pops up in my story this week,
Yes.
which is super exciting. But
Crossover.
Marie, I would not put it past her to be that kind of genius manipulator. And I'm not using that word in a bad way, like very clever people when it comes to deciding what the likely response of someone's going to be. That's very smart. Like, it's really really clever to be able to go, well, I know enough about human behavior to recognize that if I do this, they will probably do this. And obviously with her, like, learning about all the gossip through hairdressing, like, and just figuring out how everyone's life worked, and then using that in her intuition and voodoo is so interesting. I think she's just the best character. She's so cool, but it sucks.
She's so cool.
Why did she have to do it for this rapist?
I know. It's like Game of Thrones level of like love-hate for a character, which is probably a silly analogy to use, but it's like, that's why I think the character, even though she was a real person, these characters in Game of Thrones, they're very like multifaceted, very like grey. And I was like so on board with her, and then I got to this story and I was like, oh, but the grayness of it does make her very appealing to me.
Yeah, because she feels more real. She doesn't, like, it's like when there was something to do with Mother Teresa a couple of years ago, and people were like, she wasn't actually as good a saint as everyone says she is. And it's like, no, because she was a real fucking person. Not everyone is entirely good or entirely bad.
No.
But if you're a saint, you kind of meant to be entirely good. That's the point.
But that's
of
not
the
how
saintness.
people work. Like,
She was good up until she became a saint. I don't know. I know nothing about Mother Teresa. Don't take that as gospel, please. I'm very sorry. I only researched one lady this week, so I'm very briefly one man. Dr. John, he was very cool. So yes, we've got that one. Yeah. So there's also an account of a public execution, which happened around 20 years after this mess. Now, Marie was super against the death penalty and tried her best to, like, influence authorities in her favor and release, like, people that are on death row. And there was this very specific one. And the police, having done it, they're like, no, this dude's a murderer. Get him gone. Get him gone, they said. We don't want him here. Well, Marie and Zombie attended that public hanging on a sunny, cloudless afternoon in Congo Square. She approached the scaffolding and addressed the executioner, and suddenly the sky turns dark and a blanket of cloud cover stretches over the city. A violent wind swept over the crowd, and the executioner pulled the lever anyway. Despite this very sudden and very violent weather change, he was like, nah, fuck it. I've got a job to do. I'll work. And he dropped to the floor beneath the accused man. But his noose came loose.
oh, what the fuck?
And he landed unharmed on the ground. According to sources, this was considered an act of God, and the man was sentenced to imprisonment for the rest of his life, and the death charge was dropped.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so perhaps another grand spectacle, but still a great story nonetheless. A little bit more fantastical than just peppers in the mouth.
Yeah.
Peppers in the mouth.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's
That
fucking
one's a little
awesome.
bit more fantastical, which I really liked.
I like that too.
Just love that she's like wearing zombie around her neck like Britney Spears at the VMAs. It's
That's
really
exactly
great.
what I'm imagining.
Yeah,
But I think
it's really cool.
20 years later, I think that would have been like maybe Zombie the Third or...
Well, snakes live forever, dude.
Yeah, they
Snakes
can
live
live
for a really long time.
Really?
fucking time.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Reptiles are old world. They always last ages. Same in birds.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
dinosaur age.
Yeah, you can
And
get
turtles.
parrots. There's African
Yeah.
grey parrots have a longer lifespan than we do.
Yeah. I really would like a parrot, like an eclectus or a hyacinth macaw, but the thought of it outliving me is a little bit hard for me to cope with.
The other thing as well, I think,
It's
when
really
it comes
sad.
to parrots in particular, because they are one of the most intelligent animals, a lot of the things that people find quite cute about them is actually mental illness. Because they're very
Yes.
lonely. They're not meant to live on their own. They're supposed to be in social groups. So, like, a lot of
Yes.
the things that people are like, look at what my bird's doing. It's so funny. It's like, no, he's actually so lonely that he's fallen in love with his own mirror reflection because he needs something to be there with him. He is
My
sad.
heart's breaking.
Exactly.
It's like animals at the zoo.
Yeah.
It is really hard.
I'm very funny about owning certain types of animals. I don't think it's okay to have them as pets.
If you're gonna get one, get two.
Yeah.
At least.
Give him a buddy.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to Marie. She died in her home in 1881,
Oh.
a powerful figure of New Orleans society and beloved voodoo queen. Her daughter was also named Marie, took up the practice after her mother's death, and it is said that she lacked the compassion of her mother. She wasn't 100% that good lady. She was a little bit iffy. But she apparently died of a heart attack in a Mardi Gras.
Oh,
She died. Apparently, she had a heart attack at a Mardi Gras parade and died or something.
holy shit.
Yeah, I couldn't find much on her because when I looked at my notes, I was like, "Oh, I'm there's a considerable amount of pages in here, lads." And then because her name is also Marie Laveau.
Mm.
It was all on just OG Mary Laveau, none on the daughter.
Oh.
But that's okay. If she wasn't as compassionate as her mother, then mate, I don't want to hear about it. So, Marie Laveau's tomb is located in St. Louis Cemetery, and it is said that her ghost can be seen dancing from grave to grave.
That's cool.
It's really sweet. That was a really nice image for me. I was like, oh, that's really lovely. And every year, visitors travel to her tomb, and they mark it with 3 X's in red chalk. They ask for a blessing or for them to bless a gree bag. And if the blessing is granted, you must then return to the tomb and circle your X's to show others that Marie is still working her magic.
That's cool.
I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I really want to see her tomb.
It's really beautiful. It's like above ground. It's narrow and tall. Looking at it, she's definitely like standing upright in there. But
Always
apparently
watching.
apparently her daughter is also buried in the same tomb. So I don't know, but it's really interesting because it's covered in chalk and there's like all these beautiful ribbons and these beads all like wrapped around it and stuff. So, and it's this, like that beautiful white stone.
Yeah.
Like, everything's white. It's beautiful. You can see a picture on the Instagram, wizardspodcast.com, if you'd like to. My sources this week, allthatisinteresting.com, occultworld.com, historystate.gov, Britannica, James Duvalier, paranormal investigator, and Legends of History.
Yes.
Very nice. Extensive
Thank you.
sources.
Yes.
Extensive sources.
Had a lot of fun with this one.
Fuck yeah, it was
was
a sick
good.
story. I really liked that.
Yeah. I knew very little about Marie Laveau except beyond American Horror Story.
So accurate.
Right.
So
Accurate.
accurate.
But a cool thing is that those guinea peppers, they use those in American Horror Story.
Oh, really?
Do they?
There's a scene where Angela Bassett.
Yes, she plays
Yes.
Lavaeu.
Oh god, she's so stunning.
She's beautiful.
There's a scene where her playing Marie Laveau, there's a ritual with Sarah Paulson.
Oh, yep. Also gorgeous.
Yeah, and they put the guinea peppers on like a hot iron and then she puts them in her mouth and then there's like a nice dance. It's really cool. Just that little detail. I was like, oh, that's in the show. So it was really cool.
Very sweet.
I love that stupid fucking show. It's so bad. There's so many seasons that I've stopped like halfway through. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. But Coven was so good.
I need to watch that one. I've also given up on all of them before the end. I did like the hotel one with Lady Gaga.
I didn't watch that one.
She's surprisingly watchable. Like, she's very, very entertaining as an actress.
I think as an entertainer, that comes with the territory. Because I'm always surprised at how many actors can sing.
Yeah, there's so many triple threats.
Yeah, and Tim is always like, they're actors. They're trained actors. There's a lot of singing involved in like acting school. And I'm like, what?
I didn't know.
Because I'm a sheltered little baby. I know nothing.
Yeah, I'm dumb. I don't know anything, Tim. Don't laugh at us.
I go to uni. Who's up next?
Me. I am back after it just dropped out.
Oh no, did we lose you?
Just for a little while, but it came back when Taya's like, most singers can act. And I was like, okay, whatever. We're talking about voodoo, but that's
So you'll just have to listen back to the episode.
I know.
Figure it
It'll
out.
be exciting for me. All right. So, me.
You.
Me.
Lacey.
Okay. I'm just going to preface that this story doesn't contain the voodoo religion as we know it,
Okay.
but it does contain a subsection of voodoo known as Obia, which is an underground form of sorcery that was practiced in and eventually outlawed in Barbados and Jamaica. So more of the Caribbean vibe. It does have,
I've never heard of it before. Fuck yes.
it does have certain similarities and influences like from Roman Catholicism, but it's got more of a shadow work vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Curses, hexes, effigy dolls, potions are more a part of Obia, but have been attributed to voodoo. So I'm counting it, and these murders are known as voodoo murders, even though it's not sort of like canon voodoo. So that's what we're going with there.
Fuck yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So I changed my murder last minute. I was going to do the murder of Abby Hall. But the more I looked into it, I was like, voodoo has nothing to do with it. It's just more like a term of, it's just incredible domestic abuse.
Oh.
And it was just so happened that they lived above a voodoo shop.
Oh, I think I know that story.
Yeah. And actually the voodoo shop is now owned by the queen of voodoo of New Orleans. Bloody Mary. She actually owns that shop now.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And she's white.
Yes, I have seen her on a episode
BuzzFeed.
of BuzzFeed Unsolved. That's right.
Yeah, so there you go. Random little things. But I'm taking you away from New Orleans to St. Croix in the US Virgin Islands. Is a vacation paradise that receives more than 1.5 million visitors just from the US each year.
Shit, holy fuck.
But even paradise can have a dark side.
Ooh.
The islanders were being stalked by an Obia man who preyed on greed and depression. Traditionally, an Obia man were thought to have had the power to steal people's shadows and would gain a servant for life as the victim did the Obia man's bidding in the hopes that one day their shadow would be returned.
That's a really malicious Peter Pan.
I know.
That's really...
So a man who practices Obia is an Obia man. There we go. Okay. So the first victim was 38-year-old Haig Caesar. On May the 24th in 1984, a young girl on her way to school found Haig in his car, which had apparently run off the road. At low speed, there wasn't anything like intense about it. Quote from Sergeant James Rhyme of the St. Croix Police Department. He appeared to be dead for several hours. There was no indication of foul play or any struggle, and we later found out that he had made contact with an individual who might be involved in voodoo or Obia. The autopsy found that he was poisoned by cyanide.
Oh shit, okay.
Oh,
Mm.
that's an intense way to go.
Yes. Apparently, I'm on a cyanide kick.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was about to say that's a repeat
That's a repeat.
mention.
We
Repeat
know that
offender.
it's very painful to die from now.
Yes.
So, according to hexes' wife Rosamond, her husband told her that he had paid $100,000 in cash to a spirit worker or a bioman who
Holy
claimed he
fuck.
could remove evil spirits.
That's so
Oh.
much money.
That is so much
Yeah.
money.
People pay for this shit. They're scared of shit. They will pay.
So this is a quote from Rosamond. What he said is that the man had told him that there were 3 large jars of coins buried on the property that we owned, and the coins were being guarded by spirits, ancient evil spirits. And in order to get those coins, the spirits would have to be removed. When I found out about all the money he was borrowing and all the cash he had taken out of our accounts and everything without even letting me know, I was really angry about it. I was shocked overall, just shocked he would have taken it so far.
Oh.
Poor
On the
fucking
night he
Rosamund.
died, I know. On the night he died, police believed Haig returned to the spot where the Obia man said the treasure of priceless coins were buried. The Obia man's scam was for him to drink a potion that would drive away the spirits guarding the coins, so the coins could be retrieved. But the potion turned out to be cyanide, and by the time Haig's body was discovered the next day, both the Obia man and the $100,000 had vanished.
Okay. Well.
Rosamond said she can't understand why her husband even became involved in such a practice. Quote, I knew that he was aware of Obia and Voodoo. I mean, most people living on the islands are. I thought he was smart enough, intelligent enough, aware enough to know that, it wasn't real. Police in St. Croix came to believe that the poisonings, the future poisonings, were the work of a master conman who practices Obia but pretends to use Voodoo. Ooh.
Oh.
Thank you for the cue.
Thank you. Well done. Okay. So from 84 to 86, on September 13th, a St. Croix couple, Esdel Stryden and Carmen Torres, recently died under similar circumstances. They both owned a bar, like a small neighborhood kind of situation, and had just taken out a loan to expand their business, $54,000 in cash.
Why are all these people in cash? Like,
It was the 80s.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Oh shit. Cash. That much cash is. I can't picture it.
Yeah. Imagine having to be the bank chick who has to count that. So at dusk, Esdel and Carmen left their home in their pickup truck. Their daughter later recalled that her father slipped a small bottle into his pocket before he left, and it was the last time she saw her parents alive. Her mother, Carmen, was discovered near death and died on the way to hospital. She was on like a road, on the side of a road,
Oh shit.
and her husband was found dead in his truck on a nearby beach.
Oh shit.
Both Carmen and Estel's clothes were soaked with seawater, and both had died with cyanide poisoning, and the cash was missing.
What the fuck? Soaked in seawater?
Yep.
That's so weird.
Soaked in seawater. So now we come to 88.
Okay.
So these are the last of the bioman's victims on the Virgin Islands. So the police arrived at a scene of what was reported to be a minor traffic accident. There they found a local woman, Radha Maharaj, apparently suffering from internal injuries. But Radha was found less than half a mile from the spot that Carmen Torres was found, and she too died on the way to hospital. 16 miles away, another body was discovered on the side of the road, her husband, Krishnadath. Both victims were saturated with seawater.
What the fuck?
And $25,000 in cash that the couple had borrowed was missing.
But they were in separate cars.
So Radha was in a car.
Yeah.
And Krishnadath, her husband, was on the side of the road.
Okay.
A while away. And then the first couple, the wife was on the side of the road.
And the husband was in the car.
The husband was in the car.
Right.
And the seawater.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I want to know where this is going.
So, seawater. I had a thought about seawater, and I was like, how is it used in ritual? And it's lots of like using like it's like a cleansing thing, and it's to discourage like evil spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So whether the evil spirit was the Obia man, we will never know.
But I want to know.
So Radha and Krishnadas were both born in the Caribbean, but their parents were from India, so they were sort of first generation.
Mm-hmm.
They ran a small grocery store, and Radha had 2 daughters from her previous marriage, and they both helped out in the store. The family was doing really well at the time. Nothing sort of out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Business was going well. But several months before they died, their parents took out a loan against their store to expand. And that's when they sort of found themselves in financial trouble. So they sort of made it too big and then didn't get the return back.
Oh.
So as well as everything being quite tense financially, something else was very wrong. The Maharajas had been receiving mysterious phone calls daily from a strange man. According to the daughters, it was all kept private. Quote, I usually answer the phone and this man would ask to speak to my stepfather. As soon as I gave it to him, he would ask me to go outside because he had private business to discuss.
Oh, okay.
Then 3 weeks before their parents died, they brought home $25,000 in cash, which they borrowed from Radha's relatives. One of their daughters questioned their mother about it. Quote, she told us that this is what they had to pay the gentleman. So I asked her, well, why? She said, well, don't ask me any questions. By Monday, you will know what it is all about. But by Monday, they were dead.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Presumably after meeting the Obia man. So this brought the number of cyanide victims in St. Croix since 1984 to 5. And authorities all suspected the victims believed they were taking part in a voodoo ritual when it was in fact an Obia ritual. So Obia was outlawed in the Barbados since 1760s.
Oh shit. Okay.
Wow.
And it was that like white influence again, but also even like local people, like Obia was dark. It was shadow work. It wasn't like anything good, really. And the Obia men were really well-known poisoners.
Huh.
In fact, a local doctor back in the 1830s inspected a suspected Obia man, of course he was one, though everybody was practicing in secret, his like medicine chest. And this guy, he's like, I've been a doctor for 40 years and I've been a doctor on like in India and on the islands and everywhere. And I could only find one powder that I knew, which was arsenic. And he said it was full of them. And he says the Obia man's like knowledge of poison was like second to none. They, crazy, crazy stuff. And a lot of people were saying, I was manipulated into the Obia man by buying a potion that I thought was going to get me somewhere. And it was actually like poison. A lot of people poisoned their families. There was a woman who, her daughter was having trouble getting pregnant, and it was supposed to be a fertility potion, and it was poison, and she died a very, very slow death over several days.
Oh my god.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that this is sort of cropped up again.
Yeah.
So they thought that the potion they were taking was going to help them financially or find coins.
Mm-hmm.
And it took their lives, basically. So the total amount of money that the Obia man conned out of his victims, $179,000, which today is $393,830.
Holy shit. And that's American?
Indeed. Yep, American.
Right.
So it's like $1 trillion in Australian money. Fucking hell.
Good math.
So
yeah, quick math.
The Obia man is still believed to travel through the Caribbean and the United States. Still believed to travel. He may be linked to similar cases in Florida. He speaks with a heavy French Creole accent. He has never been identified.
That's terrifying. But also, a Creole accent is absolutely stunning to listen to.
Yes.
Oh,
So beautiful.
it is gorgeous. But also, like, I want to know,
Yes.
in closing, this is just did anyone check if the victims had any shadows?
Oh!
I mean, that should be autopsy 101. Really? Did they have a shadow?
I mean,
on the table.
I mean,
the light
4 of
of
them
them.
were found at night.
fuck.
And one of them was found in his car in the early morning.
That's
So they wouldn't.
wild.
So there wouldn't have been any shadows to check.
There wouldn't. Holy shit. And also, like, the seawater is just so strange to me. And the
Yes,
fact
why?
that
Why are they wet?
The word quote soaked. The quote soaked. Like, dripping.
And
like-
they'd be
like-
dead for several hours since then.
Oh.
Wow, that's so interesting.
But they also don't know why they were separated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very weird. So that was me, just short and sweet. There's not much on this. And I thought we should acknowledge the weirdness of this. And
Yes,
I did.
please.
Yeah.
Hell
Very strange.
yeah. I like
Alright.
it. I love hearing ones that I don't know about.
Yeah.
I can't find many pictures of the victims either.
Oh.
Yeah. So I've got nothing to put on Instagram. So my life is free for the next week. Okay, sources, Sword and Scale, Unsolved Mysteries Fandom, unsolved.com, Wikipedia, and there is a article from Press Reader that I looked up, and it was sort of like tabloidy and stuff like that. But, you know, there's nothing on this.
That's fucking
So
wild.
that is mine.
Holy
Well,
shit, thank you.
Yeah.
I want to know more.
Very cool. I liked it a lot. I love hearing ones I don't know about. Because it's like
And-
the one that you said that you were going to do. Like, I have heard of that one before. So it's still interesting, but it's just like, I love when it's like, I have no idea what's coming next.
Yeah.
So, everybody look out for the Obia Man and
Don't take out any loans.
take out any cash.
No. Never do it.
But
Don't have those to take out.
they believe he was a stranger and then he disappeared from the island.
Right.
Okay, so
So-
it wasn't a local.
Well, they don't really know.
No,
But
he
they
could be, we
they
don't
probably
know.
like to think that he's not still on the island.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be nice.
Yeah. So next we've got Laura.
Yes, we do. And as per usual with my stories, I must give a small warning. It's not as gory as some of the ones I've done, but it's still not nice. So if that's not for you, I won't hold it against you a lot if you don't listen to all of it. I will.
But Loki, what are you doing on the podcast if you're not going to listen to? the
Yeah,
whole episode?
exactly. And I will totally say, like, so it's going to get weird now when we get
Yeah.
to that point. But
Let's get weird.
yeah, this is a long one. I went deep and I went dark. So let's enjoy. It does definitely have mentions of enslaved people and slavery, so that's something else to keep in mind while you listen. Anyway, cool. All right, setting the scene. So we're on the night of April 10th, 1834. Police and fire marshals respond to a report of a fire at one of the extravagant mansions of New Orleans' French Quarter. The street outside of this 12,000-foot square mansion is a mess of drunken revelry. The owners have been hosting one of the finest... Oh, sorry, excuse me. The street outside the 12,000-square-foot mansion is a mess of drunken revelry. The owners have been hosting the city's finest in a grand party, and unconcerned by the blaze that had broken out in a slave's quarters, had directed guests to grab the nearest furniture to prevent it from being lost to the fire and bring it down to the street to continue drinking and dancing.
Huh.
Yeah, as you
Yeah.
do.
Yep.
So the band had set up outside while the host assured concerned partygoers that the slave quarters were empty. No one's in danger. Everything's fine. Keep partying. And the evening was once again in full swing by the time law enforcement and the fire department had arrived on the scene. Drowned beneath the cacophony of the band, the party, the roaring fire, guests soon caught what sounded like pained moans coming from the supposedly empty quarters. Finally, ignoring the objections of the homeowners, who refused to provide keys to the slave quarters, a group of guests broke down the door to locate the source of the bizarre, muffled cries. Accounts of what they found have bedeviled New Orleans for close to 200 years, long after the eyes of what witnessed the original horror have long rotted away. Bum, bum, bum.
Oh god.
That was really good.
So,
Well done.
thank you.
But also, like, even under the party noises, they could hear them.
Yep, and they were muffled. They weren't
Oh,
screams. There were some strange, bizarre cries.
Why were they muffled?
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so you may already have guessed what I'm going to do, but I'm going
Yeah.
to tell you about Delphine LaLaurie, aka Madame Blanc, aka the LaLaurie Mansion.
Woo!
Yay!
Yay!
So,
I actually don't know much about this one beyond American Horror Story either, so please
Oh, really?
tell me all the details.
I wonder if Lacey knows about all of this, because I know that she likes Delphine, but I found a lot that I never ever heard of.
Likes Delphine. I wouldn't say like.
I like her. I think she's very interesting.
She's very interesting. But probably one of the most intense representations of abject cruelty
We shall see.
known to man.
We shall see is all I'm going to say. This is what I mean by I went deep. I found a lot of shit.
Ooh,
Okay,
okay.
so born Marie Delphine McCarthy in March 1787. So a lot of sources tried to say she was older than that in 1775, but baptismal records from St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans have it as 1787. And this is
I
important.
love all the names. I love all the names.
There's so many good names in this shit. Like the Creole names are beautiful in particular as well.
Agreed.
So she was a wealthy socialite. She was born and raised in New Orleans. She had 5 siblings. Her family were Irish immigrants, and she was second generation born in the USA. So she was potentially descended from super influential French military officers and massively wealthy plantation owners. So already super influential. Like by the time she's born, her family is a big deal. You mentioned earlier, Tay, that there was a mayor of New Orleans in your story. Her cousin was the mayor of New Orleans. May have been the same person, may not, I'm sure.
Ooh.
But she also had an uncle by marriage who was the governor of the Spanish American provinces in Louisiana and Florida. So super big deal. Her family is like up there.
Yep.
She married 3 times. The first marriage she had was at the age of 14, if we're going by the baptismal records. So she's super
Yikes.
young, but not unusual.
As they did.
Exactly. So she was a known beauty, and she was very adept in the social graces, so it wasn't particularly hard to marry her off either. However, her first 2 marriages ended in the mysterious deaths of her husbands.
Aw.
So the first one was a high-ranking Spanish officer, and the second was a prominent banker / merchant / lawyer / legislator.
Just everything. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. So you can tell, like, she always lived in the lap of absolute luxury. Like, she was very white, very, very privileged. And her family was just, had a heap of money and married her off to just as much money. So the first husband, the Spanish officer, Don Ramon de López Ayuel, was
Nice. Well done.
Thank you.
Yep.
Was appointed consul general for Spain for the territory of Orleans. So he was called back to Madrid to take his place at court, and that might actually have been like a snub. It's kind of difficult to say because there was a lot of stuff going on at the time. But he never actually managed to get there. He died en route to Havana. In Havana, excuse me. So days before Delphine gave birth to her first child, their daughter, Marie Borgia Delphine Lopez Ayala de la Candelaria, or, as she was known, Boquita. Which is a lot fucking easier to say than the 7 names she has. So, and again, Marie pops up a lot. Everyone loves the name Marie in this fucking story. So his death was marked as unknown causes, and he was he was not a particularly old man. And immediately after he died, she basically returned to her hometown. Like, as soon as she could travel again after giving birth, she went, I'm going back to New Orleans. So it's interesting to me that her husband died just as they were supposed to be leaving New Orleans, which it seems like she really fucking digged living there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, second husband. 1808, so a little bit later, She married a man called Jean Blanc, which is where she got the name Madame Blanc. He is the
Mm-hmm.
banker, merchant, lawyer, legislator.
Nice.
Another title that's a mouthful.
Exactly. So he's only got 2 names, but he's got everything else going for him as well. So
Okay.
big
Okay.
deal. He was apparently there was a very good match between them. So despite being a widowed woman with a 4-year-old, Delphine was still super beautiful, very well connected, and Jean was very wealthy and obviously good at a lot of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So they were, good match. Everyone was very interested in how well they do together. They were married for 8 years and had 4 children. Marie Louise Pauline, Louise Marie Laurie, Marie Louise John, and Jean Pierre Pauline. So fucking pick some new
Fab.
names, guys, please.
No.
There's
What
lots
if one
of
of them dies? What?
Yeah,
Still got to have one named after me.
That's it though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Surely.
Exactly. So, they had 4 kids, and an uneventful 8 years together. Not fucking a lot happened. No one really talks about it. And then Jean, once again, died of no known cause.
Oh no.
I know. He did leave instructions for one of the enslaved men in his care to be freed following his death, which Delphine adhered to. He was an elderly man, and she was just like, yeah, okay, fine. So, quick history facts.
Yes. Quick history.
Quick history. We spoke about this briefly on your story as well, Tay, but it's very important for the time and place we're talking about.
Yes.
So when Delphine was a child, the Haitian Revolution took place. Basically what that was in 1791, the enslaved men and women who had successfully and violently revolted against the French colonial rule in Haiti, they self-liberated, and they were made up of black, and there's that fucking word again, mulatto, which is not a word we use anymore, super antiquated. No. Basically at the time, it specifically referred to people with black and white parents, but before that it meant mule in Spanish.
Yes.
And
I didn't like that.
Exactly, disgusting. And a mule is a creature that is born between a horse and a donkey. So it's a fucking really shitty term. And it was just used for anyone who was not just one race. It was basically just a term that was originally used for anybody who was not one race, who had parents of different races, and then went on to just specifically people who are of black and white parents. And we shouldn't even really use race that much anymore when we talk about it, but it still fucking persists. So it's going to have to be mentioned a couple of times in this story. Anyway, so there were black, mulatto, Spanish, French, and British rebels in this group of self-liberated enslaved people.
Nice.
Yeah. It was a huge moment. Like, this thing had massive, caused so many events later. Basically, it led to, like, the abolition of slavery in Haiti, and it eventually sort of trickled down across the British colonies. It was the biggest uprising of slaves in almost 2,000 years. So, like, since Spartacus...
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Massive. Like, Spartacus had a really unsuccessful revolt 2,000 years before, and then since then, not many people had tried as hard. And it terrified people, specifically the white slave owners.
Yes.
Good.
So the Haitian Revolution inspired multiple other uprisings, and the responses of many slave owners was to be even more brutal in their discipline to discourage insurrection. They wanted basically everyone to live in fear under their rule. So Delphine's uncle was actually killed by his slaves in an uprising, potentially also her parents. There's some stories that mention it, some that don't. We will talk more about that later. So now we get to marriage number 3, the big one, 1825. So there's a man, Dr. Leonard Louis Nicholas LaLaurie.
Yes.
Yes, LaLaurie, the man, the one, the only. So he is 15 years her junior. She is 41 at the time.
Get it.
Yep, he is 26. So, again, apparently you're not fucking fancy unless you have a minimum of 4 names in 19th century Louisiana. And he is a French physician, which you may get from the name, but there was a lot of French influence at the time, like Tay said. And he rocked up in New Orleans, like, basically that year, like 1825. He just showed up. And he advertised himself as acquainted, with the means lately discovered in France of destroying hunches, like your back.
Oh, I'm
I
slacking
need
so
that
bad.
shit.
I sat up so straight as
Need
you
his
said
number.
that.
I need Homer's
Oh,
trash
God.
bin thing that he just like
Oh,
fucks
yeah.
Lenny's back up with. So basically, Delphine initially responded to his ad because her daughter, Pauline, had a spinal deformity. And they ended up having an affair, and she ended up pregnant. So she gave birth to a son,
Right.
and then 5 months later, they get married. It did not go great.
Uh-oh.
So they spent most of their time separate, apparently. She actually ended up buying herself a whole new fucking house for her and her 6 kids. And that house is the now infamous LaLaurie Mansion at 1140 Royal Street, or 1140 Royal Street. So he was super abusive, apparently. Like, he beat the fuck out of her in front of witnesses, numerous witnesses, and wounded her in the most outrageous and cruel manner. I don't know what the fuck that means in a time when people did all sorts of wild shit to each other, but apparently he was real fucking mean to her.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. They did end up living together about a year after she filed for divorce, though. So, like, 1833, they got back together. They never actually divorced. She was super wealthy for a widowed woman at this point. She's worth about 2 million USD today, which obviously doesn't seem like a lot compared to, like, how wealthy people are now. But that wasn't a kind of wealth that many people as individuals achieved back then.
Yeah.
So she was doing really well. He came to the table with about 60K. So he's not bad off, but like, she is clearly the one with the money in this relationship.
Chump change.
Yup.
Compared.
And naturally, as fucking fuckheads tend to do, he stepped out on her pretty frequently. So she was unhappy. She did not have a good time. She was having a bad day, and just nothing was going well with this guy. Anyway, the house. So she bought and managed it entirely in her own name. So it is hers. She renovated the fuck out of it. Like, she stripped it, furnished it with gold-plated everything, all manner of luxury, built an entirely separate slave quarters. And she basically decided to ignore her husband and just throw a shitload of parties and continued to rise in her social status.
I mean, yeah, nice.
I'm liking her so far, but I know I won't soon.
We shall
Yeah.
see. Again, we shall see. So,
Yeah.
to keep this massive fucking 12,000 foot square house that we mentioned earlier, the upkeep of all these parties as well that she had a minimum of 54 enslaved people under her care that we know of.
I take it back.
She was supposedly super careful to be excessively kind and polite to both her slaves and other slaves and black people in public, free black people. However, as early as 1828, there were rumors that she was particularly savage and unnecessarily cruel towards the enslaved people that she had. The law at the time allowed physical punishment, but the slave is entirely subject to the will of his master, who may correct and chastise him through, though not with unusual rigor, nor so as to maim or mutilate him or to cause his death. So, yeah, like, for the last 2,000 odd years, ever since the Spartacus like revolution attempt that did not go well, there's been like a lot of laws in place to how you should treat your enslaved people, because they recognize that, oh, if you're really fucking brutal, people don't like it, and they're more likely to try and fucking murder you. So, you know, they made laws about how well you had to treat your enslaved people. So the rumors that were around Delphine got to the point that a lawyer was sent to her house to check on the slaves and chastise Delphine for the unusual vigor with which she discharged her punishment. But nothing was found to indicate that she had performed any abnormal cruelty.
Abnormal cruelty. Okay, well, that's good.
Exactly. It's
Just normal cruelty.
just regular cruelty.
Just vanilla cruelty.
Exactly. She's not
Oh.
kinky. She's just regular. So it's said that she even beats her. It's like she beat her children apparently for showing kindness to or feeding the slaves. Nothing ever really seemed to happen despite these supposedly numerous visits by the law. The LaLaurie slaves were said to be singularly haggard and wretched, famously penned by an author called Harriet Martineau. She was a British writer and the first female sociologist of the time.
Oh.
And Harriet gave it to Delphine in her book.
Light her up.
Yeah. So she had a couple of books, and one of them in particular, where she talks about Delphine quite a lot, is called Retrospective of Western Travel, Volume 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there were 12 recorded deaths of slaves at the LaLaurie house from 1830 to 1834. So only 4 fucking years. 12 people died in this house.
Recorded
Jesus.
people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Recorded.
That's the key word.
And they included a 30-year-old cook and laundress called Bonne and her 4 children, Juliet, who was 7, Florence, who was 10, Leotine, who was 2, and Jules, who was 6.
It's a beautiful
2.
name, Leotine.
I like that
Leotine.
too. I like Juliet as well, quite a lot.
Mm.
So 20 deaths total throughout her 3rd marriage. Significance? It's a weird thing that she took on this husband and suddenly there's all these rumors about deaths and haggard slaves and particular cruelty. I just think that's really interesting. Like, I wonder if it was like a Fred and Rosemary West thing, or Carmen Homolka and Paul Bernardo. Their first murder was
Ken
Carla's
and
own.
Barbie.
Yeah, exactly. And
Hmm.
their first murder together was Carla's own sister Tammy, because she promised Tammy's virginity to Paul, which is fucked up.
I.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we'll come back to this later as well. Anyway. So the causes of death are not mentioned for any of these enslaved people, we should say. There's various dates of death over the 4 years. It could have been disease. Infectious disease was something that was pretty frequent in New Orleans at the time, as it was everywhere in the world in the 1800s, because it was just not a good fucking time. But it's not stated, so we don't know what they died from. So Harriet, great female writer, wrote about a neighbor who witnessed a 12-year-old slave girl fall to her death from the roof of the LaLaurie mansion, running from Delphine, who was wielding a whip.
Holy shit.
Fucking yeah, right? So this little girl was known as Leah, Lia. Her body was buried on the grounds of the mansion, very hush-hush. Some accounts later have Leah brushing Delphine's hair when she hit a snag, and the enraged woman raced after her with a whip.
Oh my god.
So the neighbor heard the fall and saw the child taken up, her body bending and limbs hanging as if every bone were broken. At night, she saw the body brought out, a shallow hole dug by torchlight, and the body covered over. Fucked up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it led to an investigation, and Delphine was fined $300 and ordered to relinquish 9 of her slaves, which she did. But then she bought them back because nobody gave a shit, and it was all just for show. She basically had friends and family buy them back on her behalf. Can you imagine fucking being those poor people?
Oh god.
Like, you think you've escaped this horrible household, and then, oh, look, here's your new owner. Come back into the same fucking house. Awful.
Yep.
And it's worth noting that at the time, legally, her slaves could not testify against her, and any free witnesses were paid off. So all she had to do was, to avoid justice at the time, was just swear before a court that she hadn't done anything wrong.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how
Oh, I
the
haven't done
justice
it.
system worked at the time.
It wasn't little old me.
It was not I. So now we will return to the party. So the fire was found to have been started by a 70-year-old slave woman who had been literally chained to the stove. Yeah. At this point is my warning. It does not get very nice for a period of time here. You can skip ahead probably by 10 minutes. Or
10
you can
fucking
just bail.
minutes?
I've got a
You
lot
could
to
just
tell
bail.
you.
Okay.
So,
Okay, strap in.
strap in. She was attempting to commit suicide. She was terrified of being dragged by Delphine behind the door upstairs as punishment, which we never discovered what the punishment was for, because no slave had ever returned from behind this door. Let me say that she would literally rather burn alive than she wants her flesh to be burned while she's still conscious, rather than go up that fucking door. She doesn't want to go behind it that fucking bad.
Yeah.
The partygoers forced her to take them to the door.
It's all fun and games, ain't
Yeah,
it?
fucking love it. Before they even get to the door, they discover several slaves in various states of misuse.
Misuse. Okay.
Misuse.
What a. Okay.
They were beaten and starved. They shepherd them out of the house and onto the sidewalk, and they are bearing bruises and distinct markings of a whip. Finally, at the top of the narrow staircase behind a door with no handle, the witnesses found the true horror of the LaLaurie mansion. Potentially under the guise of voodoo, Madame LaLaurie and the good husband doctor had experimented upon the slaves. Dr. LaLaurie, who was conducting experiments on the slaves in order to develop better his medical procedures, had been interested in how voodoo worked, supposedly. Madame LaLaurie had also been extremely interested in how it all worked, supposedly. So the best descriptions I can give are quotes directly from the witnesses. So the first one is from the New Orleans Bee, the newspaper, and they gave this quote the next day on April 11. The doors were pried open for the purposes of liberating them. Predisposed to taking this liberty, if liberty can be detailed, several gentlemen impelled by their feelings demanded the keys, which were refused them in a gross and insulting manner. Upon entering one of the apartments, the most appalling spectacle met their eyes. Several slaves, more or less horribly mutilated, were seen suspended from the neck, with their limbs apparently stretched and torn from one extremity to the other. Language is powerless and inadequate to give a proper recollection of the horror, which a scene like this might have been inspired. We shall not attempt it, but we shall rather leave the reader's imagination to picture what it was. The slaves were the property of the demon in the shape of a woman, who we mentioned in the beginning of the article. They had been confined by her for several months in the situation from which they had thus been rescued, and were merely kept in existence to prolong their sufferings and make them taste for all the most refined cruelty they could inflict. But why dwell upon the particulars? We must feel confident with the community to share with us their indignation, and that our vengeance will fall heavily full upon the guilty culprit. Here is a second quote. Several slaves, beaten, bruised, and bloodied within an inch of their lives, their eyes gouged out, skin flayed, and mouths filled with excrement, and then soon shut. One report claimed a woman who was present, whose bones had been broken and reset so that she resembled a crab.
Oh my god.
Yep. A woman whose intestines had been pulled from her guts and wrapped around her waist. People with holes in their skulls, with wooden spoons near them that had been used to stir their brains, maggots crawled in and out of their brain matter. There were other rumours that there were dead bodies in the attic as well, their corpses mutilated beyond recognition, their organs not at all intact or inside their bodies. A third quote.
Oh my god.
Judge Jean Francis Cannonage, who had entered the house, found a woman wearing an iron collar and an old redacted, because I didn't want to say this word, woman who had received a very deep wound on her head, who was too weak to walk. Cannonage said that when he questioned LaLaurie's husband about the slaves, he was told in an insolent manner that some people had better stay at home rather than come to others' houses to dictate laws and meddles in other people's businesses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, mate.
Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a good time.
No.
People didn't like it. So there was a version of this story that began circulating in 1836, so 2 years after, recounted by Martineau, our female author, who added that the slaves were emaciated, showing signs of being flayed with a whip, bound in respiratory postures, and wore spiked iron collars to keep their head in static positions for months at a time. Which fucking is awful.
Yeah.
All of it is awful. All of it is bad. All of it makes me sad. So some reports claim that there were only a few bodies present of deceased people. Others claim that up to 100 victims were found. So earlier I said that maybe Delphine was similar to Rosemary West or Carla Homolka. In that, yes, definitely a willing participant in this awful shit, but maybe her good husband was the main antagonist. She had no history of sadism prior to this marriage, and our doctor was a specialist of the spine, whose methods included stretching patients out on special beds and couches to straighten their spine. Does the stretching ring any bells? Their limbs
Yes.
stretched and torn from one extremity to the other.
Yeah.
How's resetting someone's bones like a crab gonna help them walk, mate?
Hey, they can walk. It's just in a new way.
Crab core. Asking Alexandria.
Exactly.
Fucking hell.
Fucking hell. So yeah, people went fucking nuts. They didn't like it. They literally tore the house down then and there. The whole fucking house. By the time the police arrived to stop them, nothing was standing but the outer walls. The mob of locals had demolished and destroyed everything they could with their own hands. So that sort of surprised me. And this is where I'm going to get into the why I've been going over and over again. Are you sure that she was the worst of the worst? Because at the time, people did fucking awful shit, outrageous shit to the people that they owned. So in 1863, Harper's Weekly reported about the breastfeeding slave of a Mrs. Gillespie, who was whipped 100 times with a wet leather strap before her mistress attempted to seal her nipples with hot tongs so the woman would stop being unproductive when she was feeding her baby.
Okay.
According to historian Daniel Rasmussen, they would tie your hands to 4 stakes, then whip you with a cat of 9 tails that would leave you bleeding and barely able to move. They also had iron masks put around your head so you couldn't eat. They had collars with spikes facing inwards so slaves couldn't sleep without getting spikes stuck in their neck. These were common forms of punishment in Louisiana during this period. They believed that without the threat of tremendous violence, slaves would not stay slaves. So everything that I just said is barely a step above the awful fucking shit that people just did at the time. And the proof of this is that these tortured slaves that they found in the LaLaurie mansion were taken to the local jail and made available for public viewing. Up to 4,000 people attended to view the slaves to convince themselves of their suffering. Literally just rubbernecking someone's fucking agony. Like, yeah, awful, awful, awful people. It was not a good time. So the Pittsfield Sun, citing the New Orleans advertiser, had written several weeks after the evacuation of the slave quarters at the LaLaurie mansion. They claimed that 2 of the slaves found in the mansion had since died, and added that we understand that in digging in the yard, bodies have been disinterred and condemned into the grounds of the mansion. Having been uncovered, others, particularly of a child, were found. So the claims were repleted by Harriet Martineau, lady author, in her retrospective Western travel book. And she placed the number of bodies at 2, which included the child Leah. So, yeah, people fucking mad, tore down the house. They literally had a lynch mob demanding the death of the LaLauries, and Delphine fled the city. She and her husband escaped to Paris, and they never saw any consequences besides not being able to return to New Orleans.
Jesus.
Absolutely awful. According to a letter that Delphine's son sent to her brother-in-law a few years later, Delphine wanted to go back really badly. Like, she really wanted to return to New Orleans.
No one's gonna want you there, mate.
No
I
one.
don't understand why.
And she was really fucking upset when her children persuaded her not to. And this, again, makes me think that she did fucking murder her first husband, because he tried to take her from her home city and then mysterious and suddenly died.
Yes.
So apparently she didn't understand why she couldn't go back. So potentially we're talking about dementia. Like, she could have been suffering from poor mental health.
Potentially.
She may have been suffering from it for some time. So there's speculation that her failed marriage with Leonard, Dr. Leonard, had mentally unbalanced her. He was much younger than her. Many of the deaths were of young female slaves under her care that were recorded. We know he was not bound by the rigid expectations of the time, since he began a sexual relationship with Delphine before they were married. Maybe he didn't give that much of a fuck about the bonds of marriage either. And maybe he had some extramarital affairs or rapes with the slave women in the house. And maybe she didn't fucking like it. So... you know, the children of, like, her children all write letters about their mother's duality, about how she was really tender and then had fits of bad humor, and that they feared her. So it sounds like she was a pretty fucking intense woman.
Also, just like, because like he beat her as well, right?
Yeah, he did,
So
definitely.
there's a cycle of trauma there as well.
Precisely.
From that, because that would fuck someone up.
So yeah, exactly. It's super traumatic because people didn't do it at the time. Like, it definitely happened. Beating your spouse is something that has happened forever. But it didn't happen in high society as much in public, because that was something that poor people did. You don't beat your partner. That's do
your
it
business.
privately.
You keep that to yourself.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's it. So the fact that, like, he did it enough that people noted it and wrote about it, and that it was done so obviously, speaks to the fact that it probably was quite violent, what he did to her, because, yeah, just the fact that people said anything about it is pretty intense, because it was, you keep your wife in line. So,
Hmm.
yeah, awful. There were rumors that she did eventually return to Louisiana and lived under an assumed name. There's also rumors that she died in France, in exile. There are potentially 2 dates of her death. There's also a story from George Washington Cable in his excitable book, Strange True Stories of Louisiana, where she died.
book.
Yeah, exactly. Where she died in a boar hunting accident, but she's fucking
Okay.
60, so
Oh, she just got Baratheoned. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So I don't know what a 60-year-old fucking former society matron is doing out on a boar hunt, but okay.
Yeah.
So records, like actual records, show that she died in Paris on December 7th, 1849. Her body may have been disinterred and reburied in New Orleans. In the late 1930s, a man who served as a sexton to the St. Louis St. Louis Cemetery discovered an old cracked copper plate in Alley 4 of the cemetery with the inscription that read, Madame LaLaurie, ni Marie Delphine McCarty, December 7th, 1842, age 6 dash dash dash. We don't know. And there's
Ooh.
no further information whatsoever about what happened to the mysterious Dr. Leonard LaLaurie.
Hmm.
So we don't know when she died. We don't know how she died. We don't know anything about what really happened to her after she was forced out of New Orleans. Now that I've told you all of that,
Yes.
a lot of this shit is super embellished. Like, so much of it, it's not even funny. So we talked about how there wasn't that much of a difference between how evil Delphine was versus people who sealed breastfeeding mothers' nipples shut with red hot clamps. The problem was that Delphine did whatever she did to her enslaved people visibly. She didn't do it on a private plantation. She didn't do it way out on the distance, and she was not poor. She was white, and she was very, very socially on the rise. She was important. She was high society. She had a lot of influence. She had a lot of connections. And it was one of their own being caught performing these acts that looked so fucking horrendous and was illegal that they needed to be completely stripped of humanity so they could distance her from the rest of their class. This is where the stories of voodoo likely originated from as well. So obviously Marie Lavaeu was also alive at this time, and she actually lived like half a mile away. It's a 10-minute walk between her house where she lived at the time of the LaLaurie mansion being ripped apart, and the actual house. So the white community in New Orleans as a whole never accepted voodoo. We've already spoken about that. They never have said it was a legitimate religion. Again, why it's now classified as something that's occult. And Delphine's socialite associates needed to associate her with dark and evil, black magic,
Here we
black
go.
community, othering the black community. So otherwise, they would have to question slavery and their own treatment of human beings too closely to allow themselves to continue to partake in it without moral conflict. Exactly. So the little girl who fell off the roof, Leah, there's zero record of her ever existing. Obviously, like, records weren't as closely guarded at the time. But
Bit of slaves. They were very well documented because they were property.
exactly, that's it. Like, you document the things that you own and buy and sell because you want to be able to keep doing that. So the fact that there was zero record of her, maybe she didn't exist.
Oh, they turfed it.
Yeah, well, that's it exactly. There are records that Delphine sold 4 slaves off to a family friend who immediately sold them off to another relative, and then later LaLaurie bought them back. 3 of them actually later dying under her ownership. So there's something there. But the cook who was apparently chained to the stone was not chained to a stove until much later account, years and years after this all happened. Harriet's writings were published 2 years after the LaLauries were run out of town. Delphine never actually thought the actions that she'd taken were wrong at all. A lot of historians, well, not a lot, some historians think that she was set up and was one of the first victims of yellow journalism, which is, colouring your reporting to perceive something the way that you want it to be perceived.
Yeah.
So in 1941, the president of the board of curators at the Louisiana State Museum, Stanley Arthur, said There is nothing in the record to indicate that she was the type of woman pictured by them. One must remember there was much social jealousy in those days, and that Madame LaLaurie occupied an enviable position socially. Louisiana at the time belonged to Spain, which is exactly what Tay said earlier as well, and it was sold to America in 1805, which was during Delphine's lifetime. So Franco-Spanish Creoles, which was what she was, challenged the power of the new English Protestant owners a lot. They were a big problem for the new English Protestant owners. The American Governor Claiborne privately confided in President Jefferson at the time that the Creoles of New Orleans were ill-fitted to be citizens of the Republic. So she's one of the old Creole elite. Her power was a big fucking problem to the new white Catholic people who wanted to own this place. So in saying that, it was not the American press that wrote the most damning reports of her. It was Creole publications. There are, however, at least two recorded instances outside of the first elderly man that belonged to Jean Blanc being freed. Delphine actually emancipated 2 different slaves minimum, just set them free for whatever reason she wanted to. So there's a lot of weirdness going on about who she actually was as a person. Did she actually do anything that was worse than what other people were doing at the time? And there's a lot to do with power at play here. She was part of the old elite. There was a new power that did not want her to be. She had a lot of money. She had a lot of influence. And she was not quiet about how she, chastised her slaves. But there wasn't really anything else for people to have on her. This was the easiest way to fuck her over and get her out of the place. So some of the things that I mentioned earlier, I'll go over them again just briefly with some nice quotes.
Yes.
So Ghost Stories of New Orleans, which is a book published in 1946 by Jean de Lavigne. She alleged that LaLaurie had a sadistic appetite that never seemed appeased until she had inflicted upon one or more of her black servitors some hideous form of torture, and claimed that all those who responded to the 1834 fire had found male slaves stark naked, chained to the wall, their eyes gouged out, their fingernails pulled out by the root. Others had their joints skinned and festering, great holes in their buttocks where the flesh had been sliced away, their ears hanging by shreds, their lips sewn together, intestines pulled out and knotted around naked waists. There were holes in skulls where rough sticks had been inserted to stir the brains. However, Delphine had no fucking sources for these claims. Not one. She never cited a single fucking one from a primary source.
Ooh, mate.
Journey into Darkness.
Party foul.
Exactly. Journey into Darkness, Ghosts and Vampires of New Orleans, published in 1998 by Kalila Catherine Smith, who was a ghost tour operator, claimed victims who obviously had her arms amputated and her skin peeled away in a circular pattern, making her look like a human caterpillar. She is also where the human crab may have come from. Also had no sources. And many of the other sources were unsupported. So, she just fucking wrote shit that she thought sounded cool, basically.
Yeah.
But also, she was a ghost tour operator. She had she had skin in the game.
Exactly, yeah. That's it. And the fact that the human crab broken bones reset thing and this human caterpillar, this idea of making people into animal sort of things, came from one fucking person. It just seems way too outlandish to we've never heard that before 1998, almost 200 years after this all happened. It doesn't seem like it's very likely that it is accurate.
No, just that shock value in it.
Exactly. So, yeah, did it all happen? Did it happen the way it's said to have happened? I don't know, but it doesn't seem very fucking likely.
Either way, it was fucking terrible.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Everyone was awful at that time.
Everyone sucks here.
Everybody sucks. So today, the LaLaurie mansion has been completely rebuilt. It remained ruined for 2 years after it had been torn apart. But in 1888, it was completely restored, unrecognizably. It's been used as a high school, a musical conservatory, an apartment building, a bar, a luxury apartment building, a furniture store, and a halfway home, which would make great horror movie potential, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was briefly owned by Nick Cage.
Of course it was. King fucking Goth himself.
Yes. He bought it for 3.45 million USD in 2007,
Ooh.
which is not as much as I would have thought. I don't
No.
know.
But then again, 2007.
American house prices are super weird though.
Yes, right.
Really
Yeah.
weird.
But it was foreclosed upon, unfortunately, a couple of years later. He would declare bankruptcy at one point, I'm pretty sure.
Oh
Mm.
no.
I know, poor Nick Cage. So Delphine has been portrayed by Kathy Bates in American Horror Story Coven, as we've talked about.
So good.
So good. Oh, I love Kathy Bates. And she was transformed into an immortal sadist who used body parts from her slaves for beauty potions, and she had a intense rivalry with Marie Laveau. It was actually filmed in the rebuilt mansion.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know. Her Delphine's story also actually served as inspiration for the Briarwoods in the first campaign of Critical Role. Super cool.
Oh,
Should watch.
yeah.
And also, the building is haunted, super, super haunted, rumored to be
Yeah.
the most haunted in New Orleans.
I don't doubt that.
Yep,
Mm.
exactly. So when it was turned into an apartment building the first time round, it was a really cheap, shitty sort of apartment building, primarily used by immigrant dock workers and their families. Kids started to hear clanking chains, moans, screams, smell burning flesh, and hear scratching beneath the floorboards, which fucking gross. I really don't like scratching. It's one of those horror tropes that I really fucking don't like.
I don't like anything to do with nails. Or fingernails. Like, that really fucks me.
Yeah.
What haunting trope scares you the most?
The haunting trope.
Oh, I don't like shit that crawls.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
walk towards me, please. I don't like it. Because especially when they crawl and they go really fast.
Yeah, no, that's awful. I don't fucking like that
No.
either.
Spider walking, Regan.
No. If you're going to kill me, you stand on your own 2 feet like a man. Thank you.
You come at me correct.
You come for me correct.
I get really spooked with mirrors. I've always been spooked with mirrors.
Have you
I think-
watched what's the really good one with the mirror?
Oculus?
Yes.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
Don't do it, man, if
it's
you're not into mirrors.
Good one.
No, I want to now. But there's a scene in Amityville Horror, the remake, the Ryan Reynolds remake, which is excellent, where I think it's the little boy is going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and he turns in all the lights, and he looks into the bathroom mirror, and there's just the ghost of an Indigenous American, but they're flayed. So their skin is just blood red. And he gets so spooked, and it's behind him, it's behind his shoulder, looking over his shoulder into the mirror behind him, and it fucked me. But I think I've always been really spooked of mirrors since I was really little. I had a mirror in my room as a kid that I hated. I had nightmares about the mirror for years, and I don't know why. I've always had bad dreams about it.
It's haunted. It's definitely haunted.
Mum got it from a market. It probably fucking was.
Oh,
Definitely
so
was.
My new house is almost 200 years old. I think it's 168 years old.
Also, you're in the basement. That's probably where the beer was kept. So.
Yes.
Oh, prohibition ghosts.
Don't know.
Prohibition ghosts.
Yeah. The haunting trope that scares me the most is the time or space cage. In the new Blair Witch or Grave Encounters, how it's always night and they can't leave.
Yep.
Or if they try and open the door, they just end up back within the building. I fucking hate that so much because there's so many times where I've watched something and been just fucking sell the house. Just leave. Fuck them. Who cares about who moves in after you? You don't know them.
Oh, God. No, please.
But if you
That's
can't
actually a really good trope.
leave, I hate it.
Yeah, that's really spooky. I like that new trope in the Blair Witch. No, please.
Yep, me too.
No pocket dimensions. Thank you.
No pocket dimensions. I don't like it. Or the stairs, the SPC stairs that you just continually go down forever.
SPCs love a pocket dimension.
They do, because it's scary.
It is scary. See?
I tell you what,
scary.
fucking every staircase is now an SPC staircase for me.
I like
Holy
my house
shit.
with stairs now, and it's so exciting. I love stairs.
You mean I have to go downstairs?
I mean, if you want to go into my bedrooms,
Okay.
you don't have to.
That's
Yeah,
all
but
right.
I feel like I might not get back up the stairs.
Well, that's okay.
We will have to drink on the upper level from now on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fine.
That's fine. I have a huge I have an actual lounge room now.
Ooh.
Okay, anyway, my story. So, immigrant workers living in renovated LaLaurie mansion. One of the men came home one night to find a very large black man in chains blocking the staircase to his apartment. He demanded the man move, but he remained. And when when the dock worker pushed his hands against the man to move him, they passed right through him, and he dissolved.
Oh, he dissolved. Yuck.
He don't like it. So apparently the whole fucking building just up and left that night, which I do not believe because moving was really fucking hard. And I put up with a ghost not to have to worry about bond and movers and cleaning and shit.
Yeah.
I would ask for a discount on rent.
Right?
Straight up.
You didn't tell me someone died here. You had to do that.
It's only when when you buy the place.
I don't know what the laws are here. I know that there's specific ones, but I don't remember what they are. I know in Japan that you have to tell the person that lives there only if the person before them died there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Isn't that
There's like a whole
spooky?
market for it. It's wild.
Yeah, shit's super cheap.
Super cheap. I would do it. I'd be like, that's fine. As long as it's cleaned good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so apparently people who spend the night in the LaLaurie mansion will frequently wake up to find a woman with long red hair staring down at them, supposedly.
Oh, it's Lacey.
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
Look.
oh,
I can make this happen for you.
please do.
Let me know.
Yes, you'll have to
My rates are good.
Hire a ghost.
Hire a ghost.
So supposedly it is Delphine LaLaurie herself, but I don't know if she had red hair. I could never find anything that confirmed or denied.
Oh.
Pictures of her seem to have like just dark hair, so I don't know. But anyway, there is a story that in the moments before the LaLauries fled the city, they pulled up the floorboards of one of the upstairs bedrooms, shackled a dozen or more of their servants, still alive with their mouths sewn shut, muffled beneath the floorboard of the bedrooms. And now, if you go into the house, their muffled moans and the clanking of their chains can be heard. But look, so apparently their remains were discovered decades later with the renovation of the home, which is fucking dumb because why would you waste the time to rip up the floorboards of a burning house and hide people in there and then put the floorboards back?
You're not wrong there.
This is a stupid fucking story. Put more effort into your ghost stories, please.
Yeah.
I want
Unless they were
relief.
done way before the burning building. They were just like, yeah,
Like,
it's a
fair.
crawl space.
Fair. Like, then I'd be okay with it. Then I'd be like, well, all right, if you're that sick and you just want to, like, shove people under there, and then every time you walk past and hear them moaning and clanking, you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
I own
Such
people.
relaxation.
Yeah. Get fucked history. We're three writers. We notice these fucking plot holes. Uh-oh.
Exactly. Please put more effort in. So, bringing it back. Apparently the building's cursed, much like the Hope Diamond, Lacey's lovely stone that she discussed a couple eps ago.
We love stones.
Love stones. Anyone who apparently owns it has terrible shit happen to them, like Nick Cage. Lol.
Oh.
Sad. One owner after another has come to a bad end. One tried to open a haunted pub, and he was forced to close just a few short years later. Before this, the house was bequeathed to its last documented spirit. So a suite upstairs was rented out to a curious old man who died just days after moving in, and apparently he still haunts it. In his belongings was $10,000 in gold, and his spirit basically is just looking around for his misplaced fortune, supposedly.
Gold.
Gold!
Like bullions.
Yeah! Which would be
Holy
really
shit.
fucking heavy. So how this elderly gentleman managed to move it in and then around the house, I don't know. But anyway.
He's fucking shredded. I saw him. He has an 8-pack. He's shredded.
Arnold Schwarzenegger just decided to buy it. That's basically what happened. So throughout the decades, owners have found their health, sanity, and wealth ruined by the touch of this accursed building. One owner ended his days in an asylum, and another slipped into a coma after a bar fight.
Oh.
Terrible.
Okay.
Terrible.
Oh.
So I know I was super light on the voodoo here, But I really fucking love the LaLaurie story, and it is closely tied with a New Orleans voodoo background. She is all over the place. When you go there as a tourist, she gets mentioned a lot. You can obviously go and see the house. And it's the first figure a lot of people think of when they're like, oh, fucked up shit about New Orleans history with voodoo.
It her.
It her. But it's such an interesting story. Like, it gets more twisted the deeper you go when you start to, like, this is, like, not even all the research that I could have done. I went to not that many sources, even compared to, like, Tay, for example, and found, like, 12 pages worth of shit. So you can go deeper and, like, find more shit on whether or not, like, she actually did these things, when it happened, whether it happened. A lot of it obviously seems to be fabricated, but most of it was not uncommon as a way to treat people at the time. Slave owners did horrendous fucking things to people, and they just needed a monster to blame and differentiate themselves from her actions, so they basically dehumanized her, the same thing that they did with the black population in order to own them. And that
It all feeds into it.
It does, exactly. That's the LaLaurie mansion. That's the story. Thank you for listening.
Amazing, wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope everyone else had as strong a stomach as we did. Excellent. Thank you.
No worries. My sources were Nola Ghosts, Grunge, History Collection, Head Stuff, Murderpedia, and Today I Found Out.
Ooh. Today we all found out, didn't we?
We did.
Delightful.
Found out stuff.
Yes. Thank you once again to Belle for requesting this theme. Really fun one.
Amazing theme. It was really good. I like
Good theme. Fucked up
Really,
theme.
really good. Really fucked up theme. We have some reviews.
We did. We got reviews on Apple Podcasts.
We've had a good stroke of our ego. Thank you very much to Sam WB Sam, calling us brilliantly morbid. Thank you for that. And shout out to ESP Girl, always updating that review. It's nice to see that one change every couple of weeks. We also wonder what happened to the drummer boy's head. Nobody knows.
And I checked. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
No. Also, shout out to Fee 888, who spent an awesome, amazing weekend binging our podcast. Oh, thank you so much. Indeed, she is obsessed with these queens or witches. Mate, we are obsessed with you. Thank you so much.
So kind.
How lovely is that?
I know. We don't deserve it.
We're three gremlins in a trench coat, aren't we?
Yeah.
Parroting women
Exactly.
of education. Have we got anything else to say?
Oh, we have spoken for 2 solid hours, I think.
We have.
Yeah, we have spoken for 2 solid hours.
I'm a husk.
I know.
Running on fumes of my Red Bull. If you'd like to know more about the pod, you can find us at weirdsisserspodcast.com. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is all linked there. Drop us a line. Drop us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or even Facebook, please. As we said, we love it.
We like to
and we
post
just
some memes for you on Facebook and
yes.
Insta, so follow.
Please do if you love a silly meme. We all love a silly meme. It's really good.
Please laugh at my dumb jokes. I need someone to validate me. Thank you.
Yes. If you're listening in Victoria, Australia, good job on getting out of fucking lockdown, fellas.
Finally!
Yeah, we did it. And we all more or less saved Halloween. Everyone washed their hands. It was still a lockdown Halloween, but mate, it was still a thing. Yeah.
I think that's it. I think that's
all 2 hours, mate. Let's fucking end it. Goodbye. Mwah.
Mwah.
Mwah.